Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. I am here to do a review of a couple different cryptos. We're looking at Bitcoin, we're looking at Litecoin, and we'll also take a real quick look at Ethereum as well. I'll be focusing a lot of my time on Bitcoin because that is the asset that is, making some of the larger moves that are controlling the rest of the market. So I do want to take a quick look, start at a high level and work my way down to a low level and take a look at the price action that has currently played out. First, of course, I'm going to start with the notion that this is not financial advice. Do your own research. I won't tell you where to enter and exit your trades. Crypto is a very, very high risk market that is controlled. Mostly by bots and algo trades, and so you need to make sure that you control your risk and manage appropriately. So first off, I'm here looking at the Bitcoin 3-day time frame. So this is a very high time frame. It's not up to the weekly, but it's a good happy medium between the daily and the weekly. So you got a little bit of subdivision that you can see inside of the price action. So I've been looking at this for for quite some time. It would have been probably, I would say, August of last year is when I really started paying attention to this particular formation. And if you were on the Discord, you would have likely seen this play out. So basically, what we're looking at, and actually, let me just kind of take myself back even more here, taking a look at this particular price action. Of course, we have all-time high. We had our rejection, capitulation, if you will, that took us, all the way down from 20K down to 6K. And then basically from this low to this high, Bitcoin, whether you realize it or not, actually did almost a 2x. It almost had 100% gain in this amount of time. This is important to realize that, bears are in control and people will take profit. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized that I'm not sharing my screen. Let me fix that here. That should have been the first thing that I looked at. So here we go. Here is your, here's the live stream. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, we had our high here at 20K all the way down to 6K. And then when you have that run, when people did that buy at 6K, of course, this is smart money realizing that this is now a bear market. This is not a bull market anymore. So when the price action goes up 100%, gets rejected, and then goes to retest it with less momentum, that's a key indication that that this is definitely a confirmed bear market, and that you should likely take your gains. I mean, 100% gains on Bitcoin in this market is great, especially on a leverage trade. On 100% gain, that's a big deal. So we had our rejection here, and then we had a little bit of consolidation, but this is the move right here that I pay the most attention to. So this is where we had in May of 2018 up here at about 10,000. This was one of those moments where people originally said we broken trend, we're going back full bull mode, and then basically supply just slapped demand right in the face, and we were on our way back down to below 6,000. So that actually took us farther below where our initial capitulation level was. So why were people saying that we are now in bull mode at that point? Well, let me just point this out. From our all-time high, we have a trend line hit here, and then we have basically support at this particular level. So people think, okay, well, we are well back towards going to a new all-time high, because we have a hit on a trend here. we had a hit on a trend here, and this is where we broke out, and this is where I'll refer to as dumb money, not smart money. This is where dumb money says, okay, yes, we are in a bull market again, and we are going to just, keep going back up. Granted, keep in mind, this was December 15th. This right here was February 18th. So we're only talking a 2-month time frame. And in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of time. So a lot of people were still thinking, well, this was just a healthy correction that was needed, and now we're just going to go and continue on. So when this happened and we got a bounce here, this is where people started to, really think we're going to go back to, back into a bull market again. We had a hope here, we had hope here that was rejected, and then right here. And actually, if you remember, and I don't know if you were invested at the time, but back here on, I think it was actually April 7th or 8th of 2018. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. There was, I think like an $1,100 candle that occurred in this particular day, and that was a big deal. This is, obviously there was a lot it took to move the market that much, and this, of course, is what took us all the way back up to 10,000. And of course, you had to take a look at the lower time frame to realize that this was just a reaction rally based on the thought that we are going to bounce off this level, because we didn't break it here. So, there was a move to the upside. I just wanted to point that out. But now, from that high to this low and up to this pivot here, 84.87. A couple things about this. I've mentioned this before. I'll just point it out really quickly here. If we take a look at that move, right there, we got rejected at the 618. That's important. That is a clean rejection where sellers are controlling the action. Sellers are controlling the action. You have a rejection right here at the 618. That's something to look for. A swing high to a swing low, and wherever that rejection is, that tells you a little bit about the strength of the market. A rejection at the 618, that is your that's your golden zone, and that is basically where it was rejected. 618 was at 83.56. It went up to 84.87, about $100 difference. Nonetheless, it got rejected there. It didn't get anywhere close to the 786. If it got up to the 786 or the 887, I would say the market is a little bit stronger. But the 618 is sort of like an automated selling algo where a lot of sells, take profits will occur. And also, if I take a look here, just to check and check and make sure that things are looking right here, from this swing high to this swing low, whether you take it from this pivot or this pivot, it's going to be about the same. It actually looks a little bit better from this swing high. From this swing high to this swing low, the pivot, you could see we attempted the 618 once, we attempted the 618 twice, and we got rejected. So all of these things you should pay attention to when you're doing Fibonacci retracement. Fibonacci retracement, if you're new to trading, I just want to point out all a Fibonacci retracement is taking a measurement from a high point to a low point, and these are just percentage moves in between. Fibonacci is just a series of numbers, and there is confluence and an understanding that these numbers are where these algo targets are going to be. And so when we're talking about Fibonacci extensions, it's just basically to say if this was a 100% move, let's say this was from 100 to 50, if I had a 50% extension, I would expect the 100 to 50 and then the 50% extension to take me to 25, right? So just thinking in terms of just solid numbers. So again, it's just percentage moves inside of that particular range. So if you had to move from 0 to 100, a 61.8 retracement would take you down to about $30, roughly. So with this pitchfork, we're seeing again the swing high to the swing low, and then to our reattempt, our rejection at the 618. This is a great setup. This is a good opportunity to take a look and see where things are going to go. So what we did see, and again, these same retracements are true inside of the channels that we have here as well. So this cyan line in the middle, this is our 50%. This is our median line. This is where there technically would be either support or resistance when we get there. So you could see we moved down, we broke down below the median, but ultimately we did find support here at this particular level. And if I just take a look here, I have the 236, the 50, the 75% that are showing on this chart. So we found support. We had a little bit of a rally up to this. This is actually a moving average. This was the 200, if I remember correct. Nope, this is the 100 3-day moving average because we're on a 3-day chart. So the 100 3-day EMA, we got a clean rejection right there. That was a clean and clear rejection. But what I wanted to focus on the most here was the rejection that we got at the top of this channel. So we drew the channel based on our swing high, swing low, and our pivot on our reattempt. We had a clean rejection right here. It was almost to the tick. It was almost perfect, almost too good to be true. And if I zoom in just a little bit, we're going to see that rejection was right there. It was perfect. And right after that happened, since we're inside of this channel, it's clear that we are inside of this channel. We had a rejection. You could see, that doji is basically just a clean, flat-out rejection of that particular 3-day time frame. And then we saw a rejection here. You'll see actually that we got some support, and that happens to be the 150 EMA. We had support there for a moment. And of course, we weren't able to get anywhere near that trend line, and so we had a major rejection. So let's talk about where we are now that we got that rejection. Well, looking at Bitcoin down here, you can see, of course, we have our range. We got support, in this area. We had a rejection at the median line, and you can see that this happened over and over and over. Rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, and then we had no real attempt here. But then when we were able to make another reattempt, we broke through. We had another rejection, but then we ended up having support at the median line. So that was important. That was a good indication that that we are slightly bullish at this point. But now what? Now what's next? What's next? So if we take a look at this, we had our support at the median. We had resistance at this level. We now have support at this level right here. This is important. I believe this is our 50% range. See? We had support at the 50%. And now we're starting to move up. We broke through this resistance because this was resistance here. This was our move to 4,200 a couple weeks ago, and we got a good rejection, but we had support at this area, and now we have broken through this level that we previously had as resistance. We're moving up just a little bit. And of course, I can't predict the future. I'm not going to go full bull mode on here. But what I will say is maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point, potentially in the next 6 days, it would not surprise me one bit to try this level. This would not create a new high. So let's just mark this. Because again, on a 3-day time frame, we have a high here. We have a high here. And then we have our recent high here at 40.38. We're under 4,000 right now. Remember that. But if we're able to, on the next candle, work our way up right here, what you'll notice is that is not a new high. That's important. So we're going to leave those levels there, and I'm going to move to a lower time frame, and we're going to take a look at a few things. We're just going to take a look at what our retracements look like. So I'm going to move to a 4-hour time frame. So we're going to have lots and lots of subdivision in this zone. I'm actually going to turn off this moving average just to keep things a little cleaner. And I want to focus on this push up to 41.90. This rejection down here, down to this level, which was 36.41. Let me get my line here. Yes, 36.40 was the low. Now, again, using Fibonacci retracement here right inside of our tool, we're going to go from the swing high to the swing low, and we're going to see where our pockets are. Now, you can see here that we have broken, and we are currently sitting at the 618, but we did break through. We were able to close above on a 4-hour time frame. That's significant. But we had a rejection. We did not make it to the 786. But now let's take a look. If I move the chart to the left a little bit, focus on this trend line here, keeping in mind that from a time and price range, if we start right here and we work our way over to the right and go up to the 887. So that's going to take us up about another $150 from where we are. It's going to take 20 bars to do this. So there are 6 4-hour bars in a day. So we're talking within 4 days. We're either going to just get rejected here, which is very possible. But I tend to believe that we're going to retest this level. I think we probably will get either to the 786 or the 887. I'm not going to be completely bullish until we break this channel. And I'm going to stand by that because it has not given me a reason to believe that we are breaking out of this channel. It has held more than once. It's held here. We've seen support of the median line. We haven't broken out yet here. That's important, so keep that in mind. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm actually monitoring the chat this time. And so, yes, so that's basically where I'm looking at right there. Before I go bullish, I have to see a breakout of this area, which again, going back down to the 4-hour time frame, that is going to be an important level that I have to see a breakout of in order for me to flip the switch from bear to bull. Now that's Bitcoin. We have a lot of other interesting things happening in Litecoin, a lot of interesting things happening in Ethereum. So I'm not going to go into a chart on Litecoin to show the ultra long term like I did on Bitcoin. But what I want to focus on here, let me just get this into a good viewing range. Let's just take a look at the impulse that we've had on Litecoin because it has been impressive. When we were down here at $22, admittedly, I was the guy that was like, yeah, I'm going to set an order for $9 and walk away. And it was, literally the next day, we started a little bit of a rally. So let's take a look again. And I'm focusing on, on a wave theory here. I'm looking at, again, this pivot low to this high here and the reattempt. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I have my chart backwards, which is not good to show you where we actually retrace to on here. So let me flip this so that it's not backwards. And what you can see is we actually, I'll actually zoom in here so you can see this. I was talking before on my Bitcoin analysis that when you're doing a retracement, if you get to the 618 and you get rejected, that is very bearish. But let's look and see what happened on Litecoin on the rally. So again, we had 22.17. We went all the way up to 36.75. And when we did our retrace, where did we stop? Right here. I had my hot box right here, and we barely broke inside of it. We had support here at basically the 618, which was 27.75, and we were able to get a really, really good reaction. We call these bullish engulfing candles, where the next candle is larger. The candle body is larger than the candle previous to it. It's bullish engulfing if the candle is bigger. It's bearish engulfing if the candle is red. So if it's green, it's bullish. If it's red, it's bearish. And you can see here, this was this was straight up bearish candle right here. but we had the support at the 0.5 of this initial impulse. So we still had some support that was being held here, and you can look and see there's a lot of areas on the daily where there's a lot of support. So going out just a little bit here and taking a look at our trend, I still think there could be, even though there's been bearish divergence forming on Litecoin on the daily, we could potentially see about another $5 move on Litecoin before there's a rejection. It's possible. Now, is that worth it to trade? In my opinion, no. It's not worth it to buy Litecoin right here with the hopes that it's going to go up $5. Now, where am I getting that $5 from? So let me remove this just for some clarity. And again, I'm looking at this first impulse, this move up and this pullback to the 618, because again, that is an important thing to look at because that is a bullish move. We had support at the 618. So doing that, looking at this, I tend to create my targets at the 1618 extension and the 2618 extension. All that means is from this point down here to this point up here, I'm counting that as a 100% move. Something that I have seen people do is I've seen people take a trend line and they take a line from here and they take the line up here. And so I've got my low and I've got my high, right? And then they click and they drag this around and they move it to where they want it to go. Now this is only 100%, right? So I have to use my retracement tool to get my actual targets, which again, I'm looking for 161.8% and I'm looking for 261.8%. So this doesn't necessarily work for the move that I'm looking for here. So that's why I don't tend to use that kind of analysis. I like to use the tools that are available to me instead of drawing lines and moving them around. So again, this is the length of this particular impulse, and the targets are based on where it retraces. So 161% of that first move starting at the 618 support. 161.8% right here. And you can see actually at $51, we had rejection and rejection big time. That's good. That's good. So what I'm seeing there is from this low right here, approximately. Oh, let me get my tool. From this low here to this high here, we had our rejection. We retraced 236%, sorry, 23.6%. We retraced 382%. We didn't even get to the 50. That's even more bullish. So what happened at the 382? We had support. Let me just pull this out a little bit here. We had support here and we had support here. This was even more support. You can see that candle is even even thinner with a longer wick at the bottom. So that was a lot of buying that occurred in that particular candle. Again, that was on February 27th. Okay, and then we have another impulse, and I can see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this 5 still in the works, potentially over, still in the works in my opinion. Somewhere between 59.73 and 65.82, which happens to be right where we are. That's going to be your probability target. Your high probability target is going to be in this hot box here, which is why I'm saying don't buy Litecoin right now, because the target for selling on the impulse is going to be about right here. What people want you to think is this is just going to continue moving. And you have to take a look at this from a longer term perspective and look back at the history. We started here and we are now all the way up here. Litecoin has increased in value of 177%. Why would you think that that is just going to continue and it's not going to pull back? We're in a bear market. Don't think that this is just going to fly to the stars, because it's not. Yes, I think there is potential for a wee minuscule bit of upside, but it is too risky to buy right now for a $4 or a $5 move. when it has literally increased by $30. 177% Litecoin has increased. Bitcoin hasn't done that. That would be really great if it did, but it hasn't. Your targets are right here, and they're based on the impulse. You can't base targets based on, this price action here breaking out. Yeah, it broke out, but look where it came from. You have to look where it comes from. Put things into perspective. Let's look at Ethereum. I'm going to take a look at Ethereum from a 3-day time frame, like I did, similar to Bitcoin. So the pitchfork on Ethereum is a little bit different because Ethereum, like most other altcoins, is not a one-to-one relationship with Bitcoin. While the Bitcoin USD value does sort of negotiate the price of altcoins USD values, Ethereum had a much steeper decrease in value because its BTC value has eroded in a very severe way, and that causes the price to decrease even more. But on the flip side, when we're bullish, Ethereum has higher upside potential, just like Litecoin has a higher upside potential. So those are things that you should pay attention to. So again, we're looking at this pivot high right here at about $986, almost $1,000, to our swing low down here at about 365, and then we had our reattempt at $823. Now, I haven't checked this, but if I had to guess, I would say that we had a rejection similar that we did on Bitcoin. Actually, it went a little bit higher than I would have expected it to. I haven't actually done this. If I look at this, we had a break of the 618 here. It didn't quite make the 786. We had a rejection in this zone. But yeah, I'm actually surprised it went that high, that it didn't get rejected at the 618 like Bitcoin did. Okay, nonetheless, we have a little bit of a channel here. It's it looks different than Bitcoin's channel, but it all kind of trades the same. But here's the interesting thing about the Ethereum channel that we're looking at. Let me just see if I can expand this. I want to, again, try and keep things into perspective from a higher time frame looking at this. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of the charts indicators down below so we can see as much of this as we can. We are finding support right here on this trend line. We broke through it, but we had support on this trend line. We found support right here twice. We got support twice here on this trend line, and this is when we started actually getting bullish. And if I actually, looked at the indicators on a different time frame, more than likely you would have seen bullish divergence right here at this attempt of $79, $79, $80. So now where are we going from here? Again, I'm looking at this from a corrective move and not an impulsive move. I definitely see this as an A, B, and then we're working on our C. But here's something to pay attention to. The rejection that we had here and the rejection that we had here happens to be at the median line of this large pitchfork. You can see here, this is our median line. The dotted line is our median line. We broke through it here, and then we got a rejection. We're testing that median line right now. And not only are we testing it on this down channel on our pitchfork, we're also testing the median line on our new channel, which is from this pivot down here, looking upwards, and we are getting ready to test this median line here as well. Now, question is, are we going to get rejected? Maybe. Let's move to a lower time frame and take a look at it. Again, from a higher time frame, we just got rejected at the median on our high time frame channel, and now we are looking to see what's going to happen next. So I'm going to move to a 4-hour, and we're just going to take a look at this and see what's next. And again, from the lower time frame, sometimes your channels do get a little skew. You can see, here from this perspective, we didn't test it, but from the higher time frame, we were basically right on top of it. So sometimes when you move to a different time frame, the drawings and the charts they do tend to look a little different. All right. So now again, we did see some bullish divergence here. Actually right after that huge candle, the big wick up and down that we had a couple days ago, we did have some bullish divergence, and we've moved up since then. But now let's take a look again using our retracement tool from the swing high to the swing low. What's going to happen next? So I'm just going to move to an internal template here so we can see. We have not hit the 618. We have not hit the 618. We got a rejection. We're still below the 50% on our retrace. Again, you're looking from the swing high to the swing low, and this would have been a 23% retrace. This was a 38.2% retrace, but we almost touched the 618. I sort of expect us to hit that. If we don't, that is very bearish. That is a bearish sign. If we can't hit that 618, then that's not good. So let's take a look at this from another perspective. I'm going to take a pitchfork, and I'm going to go from the swing low, which is right about here, to the swing high, and I'm going to go down here to our swing low. Okay, so you can see we're actually, we're finding support here, but it really tried to break out of this. We haven't yet gotten to this median line yet. That also is bearish. There are multiple kinds of pitchforks that we can look at. This one does look a little bit better. This one actually, so let me just take a look at this. So you basically have your original pitchfork, which this one is not in play. We also have our shift, which is a modified version, which this one looks to be about right. There's a modified shift which just adjusts some parameters just a little bit based on the pivots, and then there's also an inside, which this one could be in play. There is a possibility that this is in play. I'm not watching this one right now because I'm still going with the premise that we're going to try and get up to this area right here, similar to what Bitcoin looked like. Right. So again, if I do look at it from this perspective, I can clearly see that we had rejection on the median line here multiple times. We broke out, and you can almost see it. We had a minuscule amount of support at that median line, and then basically we've started to work our way up. So maybe this one is the one that's in play, but actually the inside and the shift, they both look like they can be contenders for what's going to happen next. I do see a lot of confluence in this zone, so I'm just going to point that out here as well. This zone right here, lots of confluence, right? So we have our median from our larger channel, from our high time frame. We have the median from this pitchfork, and we have the median from this upwards channel that we are working with. And as soon as my chart finishes loading, we'll take a look at that. So this channel is also something to pay attention to. So we have this pivot, we have this pivot, and then measuring off of the high pivot. This is our channel. And we are almost to that median line. We didn't get to the top of the median. If we're able to break through this and get to the top of the median, Ethereum is looking basically at almost $200 again. But that could happen, after a while. To get to this point right here, we're talking like April 2nd to get us to that level. If Ethereum is actually going to do that, I don't think that it will, because that would mean a lot of things are going to be happening in the market at that point. So for right now, I'm looking right here at about $150 to $155 as a potential top for Ethereum right now. Of course, Bitcoin has a lot to do with the ETH/USD trading pairs. All right, so I'm going to remove that and just kind of clean up my chart a little bit here. So there was a request here to take a look at Ziliqua. So let's just take a look here and see what this looks like. Okay, so looking at this on a 4-hour time frame, what I want to do here is I actually want to move to a day chart. And yes, here we go. All right, obviously this one is close to the bottom. We had this impulse here. I'm going to focus on this impulse because it does look like it has bottomed. So if you're ever able to get this down at about 350 Satoshis, that would obviously be a really great buy. Now, from a retracement standpoint, from this swing low to this swing high, now we're in a retracement zone. So we're looking at a corrective move. This was a pretty steep correction, so that's probably not a really good sign, because that steep correction broke straight through the 618. You can see there was an attempt here at the 618 to buy, but that was ultimately rejected as well. And it's actually taken us almost all the way down to the 786. Now we can see here from these purple indicators that some bullish divergence was identified. And if I take a look at this, it's actually confirmed. So again, I'm looking, and I've talked about divergence on some of my other videos that I've done, but let me just kind of go through this really quick here. We had a low here, right? And we had a pivot. We had a low here, and we had a pivot. And we had a low here, and we had a pivot. Each one of those has yielded, if I look at this, this was our first low, and we had next low, and our third low. And all of them yielded a higher low on our histogram on our MACD. And this is actually not the MACD. This is the awesome oscillator, which does take other things into account. But nonetheless, the oscillator is basically saying that there is less selling momentum on these moves down. So if you were to buy Zilliqa right now, I would say that you're approaching a pretty good buying opportunity. Your stop loss is very, very clear, right? On a triple bullish divergence play. Basically, this is going to be your stop loss, 423. It's at 457 right now. So your risk, if you were to go long, even right here, and not wait for a further drop, right? So let's just kind of take a look at this and see where this could potentially go, right? So even if you were to buy right here, you're risking a 7% loss. So that's a lot. That's a lot, to be honest. I wouldn't risk more than maybe 2 or 3%. But for your targets, of course, there's a lot of there's a lot of resistance in these levels. So this is the problem. It's going to take a lot to get through 500. It's going to take a lot to get through 520. But based on this play, if we take a look at this from this swing low here to this high and the reattempt, we are looking at 515. We are looking at about 550, somewhere in that area. So if you were to take this, maybe even you take it to the 382. Now, of course, when you're taking these trades, you always have the option to just buy and hold it forever and don't sell it until 2020, 2021. That's perfectly fine. That strategy is okay. But if you're looking at this from an accumulation standpoint, don't wait for a 100% play. I'm only talking about 20%, and that's a stretch. So I would definitely be taking profit at 500 to 515. I would definitely be taking profit, and I would be completely out of this trade at about 550 if it does happen to get there. My opinion, though, I think it would take quite a bit for it to get up there, but that would be the trade setup that I would take if I was in a hurry to take a trade right now. That's what I would do. What I would suggest is, again, going from this swing low to this swing high. Knowing that this is our play, let's take a look from the swing low to the swing high and see what kind of a retracement that we get. I don't want to see a whole bunch of garbage on the chart, so I'm just going to consolidate things just a little bit here. So I'm only going to focus on this. I would wait to buy until 450 or maybe a little bit lower. What that will allow me to do, that will allow me to lower my risk. And that's important because, as I mentioned, I would only risk a few percent. I would not risk 7.44% on this play. So let's move this down and take it all the way down here to buy at the 618. So if I were to buy at 447 with a stop loss here at 423, my risk is now 5.37% loss. I can almost stomach that. Once I get to like 7 or almost 10% loss, that's a lot. That is a lot to take in. And of course, taking the trade down there with my target at 550 goes from 20% to about 22%. So your potential gain has also increased by buying a little bit lower and being a little patient on your entry. You shouldn't always be in a hurry to get into a trade. I shouldn't have to tell you that. So that's just don't be in a rush. Look for these retracement opportunities and get in at those levels. If it doesn't get there and you miss the trade, there's 1,000 different altcoins out there that are always giving you opportunities to buy. So there you have that. Yeah, so looking at the CBOE, I think that's XBT1 exclamation. Of course, I can only look at this from a daily time frame, and I can see this closed. This closed yesterday at 3,900, and I think a lot of this has to do with what Bitcoin currently looks like, which it's actually up just a little bit. Looking at it at 3,984. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting how this closes, or rather opens, on the next trading day. And I think that we're going to have a little bit of a jump up here, but I think this is also going to give them an opportunity to try and push the price down. You had a lot of people buying here with the thought process that we're setting ourselves up for a pretty good rally. So I'm going to be looking to see this actually start to close bearish on the next trading day. I guess looking at this from from moving average. Okay, let's look at this. I'm going to look at this in a couple different time frames. Let's first start taking a look at here. I like to take a look at the 50-day moving average, see where that's currently sitting at. Of course, we had our resistance here, then we had support on the 50-day. So that's a pretty big deal. So that's somewhat bullish on the 50-day. But yeah, so let's take a look at the 89. What does the 89 look like? Oh, it's approaching that pretty closely. So that is quite interesting. Let me turn on this indicator here and see what this looks like. So these are exponential moving averages. So let's see here. We've got the 100, the 150, the 200. Let's take a look at the 75 and the 50 exponential. So we're sitting here right in between. So yeah, I can see we're approaching the 89 moving average on the daily, but for the exponential, we've had support here over and over and over on the 50, and we're getting ready to approach this 100. That's at 4,050 approximately, and that's still an okay move. Its potential to open there and start to move above, or start to move down, that is that's definitely possible. I do think that we do have some overhead resistance here, so we'll see how that plays out. It could be that we do have um, some automated trading algos that are going to be selling once the market's open. So quite interesting. All right. Well, I think I've talked for long enough, and so I'll go ahead and let everybody go to have a good weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining. Of course, feel free to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We really enjoy having everybody on the Discord server as well. So feel free to invite your friends, and cheers. Have a good weekend.